how's it been since Tuesday? We had a pretty intense um, class, and how's everybody doing? How are you people as yourselves? How are you doing? Never mind the class right now. How's everybody feeling today?
Good.
The class has it's kind of helped me navigate what's been going on, in all honesty. It's allowed me to kind of step back from the storm and recognize it as a storm instead of being in the storm, if that makes sense. It's still really a real storm,
Yep.
but there's a level of this too shall pass that feels like this entire process that I've walked through with you has allowed me to kind of witness. So that's been helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an
Yeah.
important point, that not letting the thing take over, but rather stepping outside of it a bit and being able to witness, oh, this is happening. That great Ram Dass story about the microphone not being where he wanted it to be, right? And saying, oh, I guess I'm human. You know what I mean? So shit happens, as they say. But yeah,
And
being able,
also and keeping what's happening in context. I think that really kind of thinking about stuff happens that's really, really upsetting. But as I sat there and thought, you don't want to compare. But honestly, it was like, okay, well, everyone's healthy, everyone's okay. I'm not being faced with decisions that they're uncomfortable, they're difficult, but they're not like life-alteringly devastating. So it,
Mhm.
it just allowed me to kind of keep my wits about me and not completely spiral out of control.
Yeah. The elements of this class you said were helping you with that. Yeah,
Yeah,
like what?
like death. Like, I mean, really, like it, you know. So I've got a whole bunch of bad phone calls. I've got a whole bunch of grumpy people. I've got a whole bunch of really awful, awful, awful stuff that I'm having to deal with. But, nobody's just phoned me to say my mother won't be talking to me tonight, or like there, or that something drastic has happened to Yasmin that I have no control over and I cannot facilitate or fix. If I think about the things that are gut wrenching, you know death is pretty permanent. And although I understand, the broader context of all the things that we're talking about, if I can't sit down and have a glass of wine with my stepdaughter ever again, that's really distressing. So
Mhm. Yeah, memento mori, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
keep the rest of what's happening in context and
Yeah, yeah.
keep calm and carry on.
Well, yeah, and for me, and it's so interesting actually for Lorena and I, many times our sort of our bigger lessons, our life lessons seem to parallel a great
Oh yeah.
deal. And and of course, computer stuff always makes me nuts. I don't know it by I didn't grow up with it, so I'm doing it by rote rather than by knowledge. And of course, since yesterday, my computer was out for a variety of reasons. But I interestingly enough, I had the same conversation with Bruce today, although I thought of it more in terms of first world problems. If I can't get back, and if I can't Lorena helped me to sort it out to put it on my phone, maybe. And I
Resume.
thought,
Yeah.
if I can do that, good. If I can't, oh well, it's a first world problem. It's not, it's not. Oh, there's a woman talked about child rearing. It's not permanent. It's not life
Life
threatening,
altering. Yeah.
life altering. Who was
Barbara
she?
Coloroso.
Oh, Barbara Coloroso. Yes,
Yeah.
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 And so I am really, and partly from this whole conversation that we've been having, I just was able to have a much broader thing, sort of saying, it's okay, it's all right, you know what, it's good. And so that for me also has been an outcome of the class in the things that we're talking about. What is important?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Thank you. I appreciate that. Becca, anything coming up for you, either for yourself or what you're listening to, or
Oh, um, it's not the end of the world until it is. And that's something you and I have worked on, like the separation of issues of like what's a Becca issue and what's other people issue.
Yeah.
And um like in my job, everybody's freaking out because our biggest client is leaving and things are changing and everything is important and has to be done right away. But does it? Like, I'm just loading invoices. It's not the end of the world. And like, calm down. It's going to be fine.
yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's it. That's that grace under pressure, right?
Yeah, it's taken me 38 years to figure that one out.
Hey, only 38.
Only 38, yeah.
51.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, yeah, that's
Oh,
beautiful.
wait, no, I'm 39.
Oh, well, forget it then.
Damn.
What
Should have been
took you
done
so
by
long?
now.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah, but I mean that's exactly it. Is like only 39 years. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously. A
Can
lot
I jump in here?
of course you can.
I just had my 79th birthday, young
Oh,
lady.
wow. See, I wouldn't have even guessed that.
And I'm just learning some of these things now. So give yourself a gold star.
Pat on the
Yes, I
back.
was gonna say the baby of the group. Look
The
how
baby.
advanced
I'm
she is.
always the baby.
Give yourself a whole package.
Yes, 100%, 100%. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sharon. Yes, listen to your elders. They have the wisdom. And
Sometimes it takes a long, long
Yeah.
time.
yeah.
And I guess that what I could add to that for Becca is that it seems that I've done it over and over
Hmm.
and over again. When I think I've got the message and I go back and I look in my journals, I am sure that in my journals I will find places where it says, "Oh, I've learned to let things go, 20 years ago." But
Right.
it's ongoing
Hmm.
until it isn't. And that's what we're talking about.
Right. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it's a spiral, the growth is a spiral. It's not a line,
Right.
Yes.
right? And Lorena and I talked about this, I think, years ago. But when we grow, it's like this. So even though you're at another down point, you're farther along than you were. You have more knowledge than you did before.
Yeah.
You may bounce back quicker than, right? So beautiful. Um, and from my own input, because I know I'm facilitating the class, but that doesn't mean that I'm not growing and learning too. And one of the things that I wanted to share with you, and I was thinking about it this morning while I was feeding the cats, um, was, I designed this course. I've been, thinking about death for decades and decades and trying to process, but experiencing going through all this with you all, and obviously taking to heart that which I am teaching as well, which basically I've been doing in a vacuum, right? It's been in my own head, my own practice. But the blessing of having you all here and listening to your stories and listening to how you are taking this information and making it your own has really helped me um, drop farther into my death practice, if that makes sense. And I appreciate that. And I wanted to share that with you because it means a lot to me that you are here, but also that you are contributing in such an authentic and genuine way to yourselves, you know, whatever it is you're experiencing in the class. So for me, realizing I had a funky day yesterday, like a funky day, and I don't have a lot of those. And I was like, okay, so keep pulling it in, keep your memento mori, right? So this is it. This is my last, I did my death practice, right? Like my last breath. And I was like, oh, right, this is it. What do I want to do now? Do I want to stay in this funk? Is there anything, as to Becca's point, do, you know, everything will be okay ultimately. This is a really rough patch, and then it won't be, you know? And so and it helped me to get out of that funkiness faster. Thank you all for your contributions, because I was thinking about you guys as well. It's like, wow, we're not alone, even though we are in our individual journeys. We're not alone in as a collective. And that's what I love the most about these classes is the community part of it, you know. And so I just wanted to share that with you and say thank you for showing up. Yeah.
I actually jump in there
Please, yes.
because, you know, of course, sitting here with all of you has been wildly helpful as well. And so, of course, Rachel, as my facilitator and my guide and my mentor, I mean, my gosh, what you've brought to me. But I also have to say, like, as for Becca, as I've gone through this horrendous week, I've sat there and I've got really present to how hard life is. I think it's the first time in my life I've kind of hit that point where it's like life is just really hard. Um, and I sat and watched all this stuff happening. And like you said, it's like really somebody else's urgency. Is it really, this is the first world problem. I get there's no pool and this is a beach house and you're really excited about it, but you know, and so to hear you say that really kind of mirrors my experience of kind of like, this isn't mine to own. It's stressful, but I can keep that boundary and keep it outside of myself. But also how much you've shared around how your difficulties around your struggle and what you've gone through. I sat there and I looked at my husband and said, you know what? I feel really sorry for myself right now, but you know what? You're really lucky, Lorena. You're really, 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 really lucky in terms of your life. So be grateful. You know, there's a lot of horrible things that could happen right now.
Yes.
And it's not. So really, really, it's the memento mori, memento libra, right? It was like, okay, yeah, I feel really crappy about everything right now, but there's that Eeyore poor pity story going on inside me, and time to shift out of that.
You know, and I used to be Eeyore. I used to, because that's how I was raised, basically. And that's a struggle I have because my mom is very much Eeyore. And like she was freaking out this morning. She watches the news, and then she was like, everybody is saying one thing and then they change it and it's different every day. And I'm like, maybe now is the time to lessen your news consumption. And then she said, well, I have. And I'm like, have you? And then she went on to tell me why it was important. Like, yeah, I get it. I know it's important. But if you just sit there and you focus on all of that, then yeah, you are the Debbie Downer, you are the Eeyore. And friends, my friend Monica and I, we give ourselves a small window to talk politics and what's going on in the world. And then we end it with memes and TikTok videos. And it shows you, yeah, everything is bad, but there are cat videos. And so it's definitely something that I've learned to do, to separate out the woe is me, everything's going on. And but what have I done to put myself there, and what are things that I can't control?
Mm.
I couldn't control my husband getting cancer. I can't control our god kids grandmother not allowing us to see them. And but what I can control is remembering Phil. And what I can control is the connections grandma doesn't know I have with my niece. And um, you know, being there for my niece as she's growing up, because she's 15 and it's very hard. And so yeah, I can't see her and hold her and show her how much I love her, but I'm here for her. And so the negative isn't as big and scary.
Yeah.
And having a dark sense of humor
Yeah,
helps.
that helps.
Like the sign
Yes,
back there,
yes,
that sign
yes.
says, "Forget sleeping like a baby. I want to sleep like my husband."
Oh,
I
yeah.
find it hilarious. Other
Yeah.
people were like, "Becca, that's so dark." I'm like, "Yeah, but he's sleeping."
I
Like,
really wanted to be dead yesterday. Yep. And
yeah.
not from that. No, like I'm so done. Like I'm sorry. This is really hard. It's like you were saying, Rachel, around feeling bad that you brought your son into the world, right? Like that kind of like, oh my God, what have I done? Like, and so I understand what you're saying, Becca. It is dark, but it's like you have to be in to really drop down to how hard this is.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like you have to say, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Like there are moments where this is so hard. Yeah,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Becca. That's excellent. Go ahead, Sharon.
Well, one thing I was going to add to that, and I don't know if anyone in my growing up, the whole concept for me was that I would finally, at some point, I would get it right, and then everything would be right from then on.
Right.
And so that's the place I sort of go, and I see myself doing it, saying, and now at my older years, I think I have thought, and I don't do it anymore because I've said, and Lorena once said to me when we had this conversation a number of years ago, I said, you know, I I thought I would finally know about life, and I thought I would finally get everything right and things would smooth out and I would solve all the problems. And she looked at me and she said, "Yeah, and then there'd be another set of problems to solve because you sent us a lovely thing. I didn't really I like to pull them off and print them so that I can really read them. I don't read them so well on there. But it sort of, oh my goodness, that thought is flying away from me now. It
Bad
said,
feelings close.
sorry?
Bring the bad feelings close.
No,
Not that
no.
one. Okay.
Uh, don't know. Have to let it go. It'll come back or
It'll come
not.
back.
Yeah.
It'll come back.
Anyway, that's just a, that it is just a thing that, oh, it was about thank you. It was about the things that are going wrong are the lessons maybe that you've chosen or maybe not. I believe they are the things that you've chosen. So find out why. Why are they the things we've chosen? And how are you doing with it? How are you doing with it? That was one of your early monographs about the things that are troubling you are your blessings.
Yeah. Yeah. Problems are blessings. Yeah.
Yes, yes, that one.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with anybody. We're just whacked out of alignment a little bit, and we just have to lovingly shove ourselves back into alignment. That's
Or not.
therapy. Or not. Right. Well, if it's not a problem, then it's not a problem, right? So then, we wouldn't know.
Or you could live
But
with it.
yeah, and that's why the non-judgment is the lifeblood of this work, right? Because if we judge ourselves, then we stay in the stuck place, right? But to the point about when bad things happen and the darkness and humor, Mel Brooks was was when he did I think it was High Anxiety. Anyway, he had this beautiful, oh no, it was the producers the musical is Springtime for Hitler,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, yes.
And
Mhm.
so he got a lot of flack for that. And he said, you have to understand, growing up during the Holocaust, the way that he wins is through comedy. The way that the only power that he had over that terrible, terrible situation was to be able to diminish this man and make him look silly.
Mock it,
Mock
mock it.
it, yeah, mock it,
Yeah.
and parody and that sort of thing. And so that that humor, the dark humor, is often what saves us. Just to circle back to that for a second. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
You know,
yes.
he said that's how he chose to deal with the horrors of the world at that time. And they were pretty bad, you know. Um, so we can't lose that part of ourselves, the whimsy, Lorena, right?
Uh,
The whimsy.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's great. And so in terms of gearing up for week 4, which is the final project. So a couple of you, I know Sharon, you couldn't make it, but I don't know if you had a chance to see the replay
I
with
did.
okay, good.
I saw the
So
complete thing.
any I don't know if any of you are planning to, that's a lot of work, like if you wanted to do that for your final project, or if you already have something like that started and you want to polish it up. But I just wondered if you have had any feedback or thoughts about Maria's presentation, and or what you might like to see in the future. She and I may be teaming up again for a separate course down the line, and but we're just talking about that now. But I just wanted to get some of your feedback about what helped or what you'd like to see more of, or you know,
I thought it
what you
was
thought.
all really excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm such a newbie at any of it that literally everything that came out of her mouth was like, oh, let me write that down. So, I mean, from my perspective, it was wildly informative. I have pages and pages of stuff to follow up on. So, yeah.
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 And for me, because because of the difference in our ages, I mean, you guys are queens and I'm a crone. Um, I've already sort of on my own uh, been trawling the waters. And so I've pulled a lot of those things in. And after I watched it, I went to my file that said wills and powers of attorney and this and that. And actually, this is an interesting thing for Lorena is in all of that, I found, you remember the incident, my parents gave me a mortgage many, many years ago. And when she passed away, I was left with no proof that I had actually paid that off. And my brother was less than positive in some ways. Anyway, long story short, I gathered up all those pieces of paper and I have all of those pieces of paper. And now from the focus that you've sort of said, I mean, I'm recognizing how close I may be running out of steam fairly soon or not. But now it's the thing about putting it in a place where people will find it. That, you know, I did look up some of the things that they said about the Canadian, the stuff that you need, and I printed that off after the program. And now I think for my project, it's to be a book, a file folder, a binder with all of that stuff in it in some kind of container that is clear, and then my ice thing will be, this thing is to be found here and with all my pieces of paper.
Yeah.
So it's a project well begun at this point because of my age, but I had sort of forgotten the importance of it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Good. Good. Um, any other feedback or thoughts? I did promise that I'm going to go into the little part of the class that we didn't get a chance to get to, but I wanted to give everyone a chance to share any feedback about Maria's presentation.
Maria's presentation was really good because, like, I knew a lot of that stuff having been a part of the conversations with my parents and my grandparents, and then going through it with Phil. Um, and I know a lot of people my age are our parents are now trying to figure it out. And I've seen a couple of friends who have lost their parents who had no idea what to do. And um, so it's really good that she's out there and she's teaching people what they need to know and how to
Yes.
go about it, because
Yeah.
it's messy.
Mhm.
It's messy.
Yeah, and the cleaner the information is, because you'll be not in your right mind, probably.
Right.
Right. So good to know where everything is so that it's taken care of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's beautiful. I will be sure to share that with her. Okay, so edging us then toward the final project, right? And that sounds like such a big deal, but I think it's important. Um, even if it's just a first draft, that's beautiful, right? But so what we didn't get to on Tuesday is the other two options, which is to create a celebration of life ceremony or a moment of death ritual ceremony. So I just want to share with you a couple of elements about for those who um, may not have ever created a ritual before. Let's talk about that. What are some elements? So what's the difference between a ritual and a ceremony? Well, typically a ritual is something that you do on a regular basis. Like every morning I get up, I light my candle, I do my meditation. That's a ritual. A ceremony is usually something to mark a special occasion that may have rituals within it, right? Like the lighting of candles or things like that. So and we'll go over the specifics of your options for your final project, but it sounds like some of you probably already have an idea. So what are some elements of the ceremony? Obviously, like anything, and you can think of a wedding too, or a memorial service or a birthday. There's structure to it. So we want to have some kind of an opening. And that can be, and again, these are suggestions and you can fill in whatever you feel is appropriate. Some kind of opening, an invocation. If you're doing something more sacred or spiritual, you might open a circle, calling in of the directions. But most of all, and the most important part of the opening of a ceremony is to set your intention. You know, dearly beloved, that kind of thing, right? We're gathered here today for this purpose. Okay. Once you have created your sacred space, because that's what you're doing, you're saying, okay, this is, so the opening marks it from, hey, it's Tuesday at noon, and normally we would have lunch, but what we're doing now is something sacred, right? So the opening declares that we are now entering a sacred time. The body is whatever you want it to be. So this is the thing to really think about. There could be poetry readings, spoken words, blessings, sharings of stories. There could be performances, musical or otherwise. There could be silence. There could be meditation. There could be all of those things in order that you decide. We're going to start with some blessings. We're going to go, someone's going to read a poem. Someone's going to share a memory. Then, you know, my nephew's going to play saxophone, whatever it is, you know what I mean? But you decide what you want. And that's what's important too. And then, of course, we want a conclusion so that we know that this sacred ceremony has concluded. Again, that can end with a concluding prayer. If you opened a circle, you'll want to close the circle. And always giving thanks to those who attended, giving thanks to those who could not make it, giving those thanks to those who are on another plane who may have participated in an energetic sense, right? So that's just the elements, the basic structure. Also, consider your setting. Where is this going to take place? What place means something to you? For example, if you are working on your final moments ceremony, how would you like your setting to be at the moment you transition? You may get it, you may not, but you can at least have a directive. When I was pregnant, we did a birth plan. Like, this is what we want. This is the music we want playing. That, by the way, none of that happened. So my my then husband got the pool, I was going to do a birthing pool and set it up in my office, and never saw a drop of water. Never saw a drop. I was in my bed. I was like, I'm not leaving. And this is, I was at home. And by the way, whoever invented the birthing stool, everybody know what a birthing stool is?
Yes.
Yeah. It's like a chair with a circle cut out of it that you sit in, and the midwife will be at the bottom to help,
Catcher.
the most brilliant invention ever, because it's using gravity and you're in so much pain that it's like, oh, it's lovely. So none of that happened, but it's good to have a plan of what you would like. And even in the process of making that plan, it's very soothing and calming. Of course, who do you want in attendance? Whether it's a memorial service, whether it's a before you die celebration of life, or whether it's at the moment that you transition. And what makes it a celebration? What would you like to have in terms of food, drink, music, if any? Are you going to release some doves? What are you going to do? Firecrackers? I don't know. And that's what's so much fun about it. So my invitation to you would be to consider, what are the things that you love? What are the things that represent you? And you can use those as a theme. So for example, if when you think about a wedding, a lot of times the couple will say, well, what's our colors? What are our colors? Those are going to be the colors of the wedding, right? You could do the same, right? And the theme can be entirely what you want it to be. People who are into clubbing, right? They might have a big dance party, who knows, right? If you,
Ibiza.
yeah, exactly. I'm sure that's been done,
Oh, for
you know.
sure.
So
There's on Grace and Frankie and Grace.
yes,
I'm not sure. Have
Grace
you
and
seen
Frankie.
the episode where their dearest friend has decided that I think she has her cancer has come back, and she's decided that she wants to go, and so she
Yes.
has this fabulous party and invites everyone to come, and it's just
Yeah, it's a
when
great.
I think about that, that's like, I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of what I envision.
Yeah, I thank you for reminding me of that. I would almost assign that as, like, you should watch that episode. It's a beauty.
Yeah,
Even if you don't watch the show, it'll make you want to watch the rest of the show, and you could watch it and still understand what's going on. But yeah, that's a fabulous episode. Thank you for reminding me of that. And you're just so invested in it, you know, and it's so celebratory.
Well,
yeah,
it's
Everybody
a
should watch it.
great idea. For Phil, we knew it was coming, and so all of his friends were able to come and be at the hospital and say their goodbyes, and it was great for Phil because he saw how many lives he touched. But it was great for this group of boys because Phil wasn't the first friend that they lost, and most of them had been sudden, and so they never got to say their goodbyes, and so it healed something in them. And it
Mm,
also brought in his aunt who reconnected with her brother, Phil's father. And we were able to give her brother back.
mm,
And so she was able to reconcile with him before he then passed. And
mhm.
so
wow.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
beautiful. Yes. And in fact,
Mm.
that brings to mind, thank you again for being on top of that, because that brings to mind again what we talked about on Tuesday, these elements. So Becca just shared a few of those, right? The being able to say goodbye, and healing relationships and that kind of thing. So when you create, if you choose to do this for your project, these are elements that you'll want to keep in mind. Or some of these things you may do privately, like the healing of relationships, right? Obviously the practical planning, but some of these things you may consider um, when you're creating that. Yeah, that's beautiful. Um, Good. Okay. I want to just finish out the Tuesday class and then we can go back to discussion, so that we can really be, and then that way I can answer any questions you might have as well. Okay, so this is the final project. These are your options. Yeah, complete draft of one of the following. So an end of life plan, using Maria's guidance, the celebration of life ceremony. And again, that can be held before or after your death. If you want to do it before, a lot of people are doing that, and I think that's lovely. You could do both, sure. You could say like, "Hey, I'll get," you know what I mean? Like when you do memorialize me after I'm gone, here are the things I want. You make it a whole thing, right? There's the wedding and the reception. An end of life gathering, and this was Lorena's suggestion indirectly, but I think it's a great project to consider. So that would be held near or at the time of your death as you're transitioning. And then what's important here is really thinking about the setting and atmosphere of your final moments, but also, and I didn't put this in here, what happens immediately after you transition? What would you like? So in my family, when my father died, he didn't ask for this, but it's something that we felt was appropriate. We opened up all the windows and we let the animals in the house who were not able to be in the house. Um, he had a German Shepherd and a couple of cats, that they weren't allowed in the house because of the cancer, because he didn't want any like outdoor stuff, because his immune system was so bad. So we let the dog in, to say goodbye to him. He went right to him, after he had passed, and sniffed him, and and then we did an anointing. We anointed parts of his body. We, to get him ready, put him in his favorite t-shirt. I think Becca, I was sharing with you, he was cremated in his NYPD blue t-shirt because he loved that show. So we put him in that, and but what are some things that you would want done immediately after you transition? Maybe you want a poem read, maybe you want a song sung that somebody would be willing to do in that moment. Maybe you want the windows opened, maybe you want, yeah, or a song playing. We played Zorba the Greek. I mean, we we just had a lot of fun with it, even though we were just sad, but end of suffering, right? Okay, and then the other one is create an ice card. Again, per Maria, and in case emergency card for your refrigerator, and make it as beautiful and blingy as you want, because you're going to have to stare at it. And we were saying, talk about memento mori. Then that's what that is every time you're looking at the fridge, So, any questions about that? I will when I post the replay of today's call, I will post that as well. But did you need to see?
Yeah. When you were asking about a thing that Maria might have done in her presentation, your making that list made me remember that if she could have done in a kind of a handout some of the the elemental P words that that she said that sort of we weren't able to gather while we were doing it. That was the only earlier I thought, and then the thought fled.
Yeah, like a checklist.
A checklist,
Yeah,
yes.
that'd be awesome. Definitely.
She said she does have one, so I'm just gonna email her after we're done and see if she could send that along.
That would be
Checklist.
great.
Yeah.
She said she had a document, but I don't know what that means. So, but all right,
Yeah, I
I will
thought it
ask her to
earlier
send that
and
to me and I can
forgot.
share
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be good to have too.
For visual learners.
Yeah, I'm definitely a checklist person myself. So like I took furious notes while she was and I there was a lot of translation stuff too, because I'm not sure how much of it was the phrasing is Canadian, like it
Yes.
might be called something different here in the States.
Well,
Right.
and from province to province too. There's a big difference here
Oh,
from
right,
province to
right.
province. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, but I'll ask her to if she could share that with us. I'm sure she has something like that. Um, beautiful. So is everybody clear? Are there any yeah buts? Are there any concerns about doing it? Okay. And like I said, it doesn't have to be final, but to have a draft that you can continue to work on. What did Maria said? Check it every year, right?
Year.
Every
Yes,
year.
yes.
Yeah.
Smoke detector battery and your end of life plan.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah.
Good point.
And yeah, and if you already have it, you may give some thought to how you might want to, or even a rough draft of a ceremony of some sort that you might want to have for yourself. Um, Go to town, have fun with it, you know? And yeah, so cool. All right, now I can open it back up. Anybody have any other thoughts about all of what we've been studying and learning?
Well, maybe I'll hop in with I wrote you a little note and you answered, and I thank you very much for that. Um, and for me, it just was a personal insight around, the whole thing of past lives, and I realized that that what that think monograph that you sent made me aware of that the fact that I was trying to place that sort of thing. Well, if she was born then, I couldn't have known her because I wasn't born, and there was this whole thing, and all of a sudden in reading that I thought, but we're talking about timelessness. And your thing of breakfast, when I said the final piece of the puzzle, the puzzle was, is there past life? Isn't there past life? How to figure it out? Could there be? Isn't there? And so on. The piece of the puzzle was breakfast. Of course, I don't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, but I still had breakfast.
Mhm.
And for me, that was really a strong thing. I don't need to know. I have faith that the essence that is me, the essence that is you, will not be lost, because nothing ever is lost. And time is endless, and it is eternity that we're talking about. So for me, that was incredibly potent.
Thank you. Good. Yes. And by the way, that also helps when we're having a shitty day.
Yes.
Well, kind of, because to hop on the back of that, I mean, that was part of this past week. I was like, holy, wait a minute. Like at this moment, I kind of like the thought of just like everything just ends and this is done. Because, like, my goodness, if I have to do this all over again for another 100 years, I'm like, whoa. it was kind of a little bit mind blowing. So that's been,
Yeah.
and just to jump on
Yeah.
the back of what Mom was saying, walking into this course, I had really come to almost like this existential crisis around what is all of this? What does it mean? Like I'm so confused about all of it.
Mm.
And I think the place that I've arrived at, based on, that kind of Virgo collecting of information, shifting past that, what you taught me to do is to sit in my truth, right? So to shut off my brain, to shut everything up, to drop into my body and say like, okay, well, what does this thought feel like? Does this feel true and congruent? Does it feel expansive, or does it feel tight and shutting down? And so when I think about reincarnation and afterlife, there's still a lot of confusion around it, but the entire idea feels in alignment. And I'm just going to sit there for now. And that's been very helpful.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's like that bigger picture. And then, yeah, if I have to do this bullshit for 100 years again, that's the wake up to, I don't have to do it now.
Yes.
I can decide how I want to deal with this particular thing. What do I want to keep and what do I want to throw out? That which I'm stuck in, right? Like I'm in a situation, like whether it's the selling of homes or whatever, that's a situation that I was in. I'm in it, right? So how do I make the best of this without draining my energy to such an extent that I want to check out of the world right now?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? What can I do? And part of it is understanding the universality, the eternity of in the grand scheme of things, this is the matrix, man. This is the simulation. What are we going to do? What are we going to do with this? And yeah, there are many different ways to attack it so that you aren't draining your energy and you are able to live that life that you want to be living. It's like, this is not worth it.
Yeah.
Right.
Working on it. And
Well, yeah, I mean,
apropos of that, I've added my own piece to kind of that list you've given. What I want to do before I start any of this is kind of create a bucket list. And not necessarily, I want to go to Bali, whatever. Not that kind of bucket list, like a bucket list in terms of kind of like experientially, exactly what you are saying, like sitting here resilient in light of the fact that shit is going to happen. Like what do I want the rest of my life to look like, and to sit and almost curate that in a really conscious way, so that as these things are happening to us, how do we move through that, exactly as you're saying, kind of
yes,
like
that's
in an
fantastic. Yeah.
infinite way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And doing that with love and not judgment, because it is a process, and we even can love the parts of us that fall down, and use humor and about when that happens. It's like, oh, yep, there it is again. So love that. Okay, so what we're going to be doing, thank you. What we're going to be doing on Tuesday, of course, is an opportunity for you to share your presentations. Now, if you've written a will, I don't expect you to read your will, but you can say what you've done, and if it would be beautiful if you have written a ceremony or have a draft of just even some thoughts about, this is what I'd like to do or have happen. Walk us through it, and it will really help you to speak it out too, because then you'll be able to envision it. And remember, this isn't about pleasing anybody else. This is for you. This is the main, this is the final course in this this year's version of the foundation of self, right? So this, if you haven't learned by now, this is about you. So don't worry about pleasing anybody else or what they'll expect. This is your time. So when you share it, we will be just holding that space for you and celebrating you in that moment. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, and as promised, we're going to do a guided meditation as well. And this is such a beautiful guided meditation that I didn't want to have the class end without doing it. It's not long, but and I'm not going to tell you any more about it because I don't want you to think about it. But so those are the two plans for Tuesday. Given the amount of people that we have, I think we'll be able to do both. So the reason I bring up the guided meditation is because I'd like you to make sure you're in a comfy place. If you like to lie down when you do guided meditations, feel free. You can turn your camera off. Lorena's done them before. And I think maybe you have too, Sharon. I don't know when we've done, I don't know. But anyway, comfortable clothes, maybe an eye cover if you like that, if you want to block out the light. Just make sure you can hear me. So if you want to use a headset, that's ideal, because then it'll be close to you and all the other noises of the world can be shut out. And like I said, you can sit up or you can lie down. It's totally fine. All you need to do is relax. It's like massage for your mind. Good. Any other thoughts or questions? Or yeah, buts. Okay. Beautiful. Then that's it. Good luck.
All right.
I look
All
forward
right.
to seeing you guys on Tuesday.
You.
Hey.
Bye.
Bye.